I'm Christina Aguayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. The man who ambushed and shot two police officers in Wisconsin was given deferred prosecution by Milwaukee judge Hannah Dugan. The two cops were ambushed and shot in an alley. One is suffering from life-threatening injuries. According to police, the suspect in the shooting is 22-year-old Tremaine Jones. Court records show that Jones had a history of legal issues, but in December 2023, Judge Dugan, who is under federal indictment for allegedly helping an illegal migrant sneak out of a courtroom to evade ICE, approved a deferred prosecution agreement for Jones. Instead of putting Jones behind bars, he was required to have a job, complete 30 hours of community service, write apology letters, and stay out of trouble in exchange for potential dismissal of charges. Even though Jones continued to have legal issues such as domestic violence and other incidents between January and March 2025, including alleged strangulation and firearm-related charges, the DPA was not revoked. Jones allegedly shot the Milwaukee police officers less than 3 months after a public defender turned court commissioner threw his charges out, finding that Jones complied with the DPA despite the domestic violence incidents. Police officer Kendall Corder is fighting for his life after being shot while responding to a gun call involving Jones. His partner, Christopher McRae, was wounded. Linda Sun, a former DEI officer and deputy chief of staff to Governor Kathy Hochul, faces serious federal charges related to a multi-million-dollar personal protective equipment, PPE, fraud and kickback scheme during the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as allegations of acting as an unregistered foreign agent for the Chinese government. The 41-year-old, who was born in China, was issued a second superseding indictment against Sun and her husband, who, for their alleged roles in a PPE fraud scheme during the early stages of the pandemic. She's being charged with wire fraud and conspiracy. She allegedly steered state contracts to two companies with personal connections. Hu and Sun are also being charged with bribery for allegedly receiving millions of dollars in kickbacks from the vendors they favored. A spreadsheet on their personal computers showed that one company paid them about $2.3 million in 2020 and 2021. Another spreadsheet in Hu's electronic accounts showed expected profits of more than $8 million from both companies' contracts with the New York State Department of Health, with Hu noting, quote, "me" in the profit column. The kickbacks enabled Sun and Hu to fund a lavish lifestyle, including a $3.6 million mansion in New York, a $1.9 million condo in Hawaii, a 2024 Ferrari, and other luxury vehicles. Sun and Hu were first indicted on September 3, 2024, for allegedly acting as undisclosed agents for the People's Republic of China and the Chinese Communist Party. These charges included violating and conspiring to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act, visa fraud and alien smuggling, money laundering conspiracy, conspiracy to commit bank fraud, and misuse of means of identification related to the fraudulent use of a relative's identity to open bank accounts. They both pleaded not guilty. They are set for arraignment on the new PPE fraud charges on June 30th in Brooklyn. Sun was released on a $1.5 million bond and Hu on a $500,000 bond with travel restrictions and orders to avoid contact with the Chinese consulate. Their assets, including properties, luxury vehicles, and $210,000 in cash, have been seized. Former Santa Cruz County Treasurer Elizabeth Gutfar has been sentenced to 10 years in prison for embezzling and laundering more than $38 million in public funds. She was sentenced in federal court in Tucson, Arizona by District Judge Rosemary C. Marquez. The case is one of Arizona's largest government embezzlement scandals in history. Gutfar served as Santa Cruz County Treasurer from 2012 until her resignation in 2024. During this time, she allegedly orchestrated a sophisticated scheme to embezzle nearly $40 million from county funds. The 63-year-old pleaded guilty back in November to charges of embezzlement by a public official, money laundering, and tax evasion, allowing her to avoid a trial. The FBI and IRS found that Gutfar initiated about 187 unauthorized wire transfers from Santa Cruz County's bank accounts, bypassing the required two-step approval process by using the authentication token of one of her employees, meaning she was able to both initiate and approve the transactions. The embezzled funds were funneled into accounts under the names of fake companies that she created. Gutfar spent the money on purchasing real estate properties, renovating her family ranch, covering expenses for her cattle business, buying at least 20 vehicles, and acquiring homes in Mexico and Pine Top, Arizona, as well as a horse ranch. The total amount embezzled was about $38.7 million. Judge Marquez sentenced Gutfard to 10 years in prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. Her plea agreement was for 5.25 to 6.5 years, but the judge thought she deserved more time behind bars. She was also ordered to pay about $51.8 million in restitution. She was immediately taken into custody by the U.S. Marshals after sentencing. The FBI and IRS started their investigation after Chase Bank contacted them about unusual transactions. Representative Andy Ogles sent a letter to AG Pam Bondi calling for the denaturalization and deportation of New York City Democrat mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. Ogles says that Mamdani may have concealed, quote, material in support for terrorism when he got his citizenship in 2018. 33-year-old Mamdani is a Democrat socialist who was born in Uganda to Indian parents and became a naturalized citizen 7 years ago. Ogles called for the DOJ to investigate whether Mamdani should be denaturalized under the statute, which allows for citizenship to be revoked for lying or hiding important information during naturalization. If denaturalized, Mamdani would be able to be deported. Ogles claims Mamdani may have concealed affiliations or sympathies with terrorism-linked groups, specifically citing a 2017 rap song titled Salam, performed under the stage name Young Cardamom. In the song, Mamdani rapped, quote, "Free the Holy Land Five, my guys," referring to the Holy Land Foundation Five, convicted in 2008 for funneling more than $12 million to Hamas, a U.S. designated terrorist organization. Ogles argues the support for the Holy Land Five made before Mamdani's 2018 naturalization suggests that Mamdani could be tied to the group and engaged in fundraising or advocacy that should have been reported on Form N-400 or during his naturalization interview. Ogles points to Mamdani's promotion of and refusal to reject the, quote, globalize the Intifada slogan, labeling it a pro-terrorist rallying cry. He describes Mamdani as an anti-Semitic socialist communist whose policies and alleged ties to terrorists threaten New York City and national security. Ogles wrote, quote, Zohran, Little Muhammad, will destroy the great city of New York. He needs to be deported. Mamdani won the Democrat primary for New York City mayor on June 24th, defeating former Governor Andrew Cuomo. He campaigns on policies like rent freezes, a $30 minimum wage, and abolishing the NYPD and ICE. If elected in November, he would be New York City's first Muslim and Indian mayor. Mamdani has been vocal about anti-Israel causes, criticizing Israel's action in Gaza post the October 7th terror attacks by Hamas. That's what you need to know. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo.